My name is Ryan Mitchell. I work as a mechanic at a small garage on the outskirts of London, one of those places tucked away in an industrial estate where the air always carries the sharp tang of oil and rubber, and the only sounds are the whine of power tools and the occasional curse from a frustrated colleague. It's steady work that pays the bills for my one-bedroom flat in a shabby block nearby, but it's not exactly the life I once imagined. Still, it was mine, and for a long while that felt enough. Recently, though, nothing felt steady. I sat alone in the oncology waiting room at St. Thomas's Hospital, staring at the linoleum floor as if it might hold some answer. The place was sterile. White walls, fluorescent lights humming overhead, rows of uncomfortable plastic chairs occupied by people who looked every bit as worn down as I felt. I had come by myself, as always. No family to ring, no one to hold my hand through any of it. My parents had died in a car accident when I was young, and I had no siblings or anyone close enough to drag into something like this. It was just me, clutching a crumpled appointment slip, waiting for the results of a lung biopsy. The doctor had spotted something worrying on a scan after weeks of coughing up blood, probably from all the fumes I'd breathed in at the garage over the years. Cancer, maybe. The words sat heavy in my chest like exhaust smoke, thick and choking. What frightened me most wasn't the thought of dying. It was the idea of slipping away without anyone truly noticing. No one to mourn, no mark left behind. Across the room, a few seats away, sat a woman who caught my eye. Not because she looked out of place, but because she seemed so perfectly composed in a setting that stripped everyone else bare. She was in her early 40s, I guessed, dressed in a sharp black suit that spoke of boardrooms and decisions, her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun, a designer bag at her feet. Her posture was impeccable, legs crossed, scrolling through her phone with fierce concentration. Yet I noticed the way her fingers gripped the edges of the device a little too tightly, knuckles pale. She was waiting for something too, I could tell. Maybe the same kind of news. We didn't make eye contact. In rooms like that, people tend to keep to themselves, building invisible walls around their fears. Then the door swung open and in walked another woman, older, mid-50s perhaps, with a sharp bob haircut and a pantsuit every bit as polished, though it carried an edge of smugness. She scanned the room, her eyes landing on the composed woman like a hawk spotting prey. "Rebecca! Rebecca Harrington!" she called out, her voice dripping with false surprise. The composed woman, Rebecca, apparently, looked up, her expression hardening just a fraction. The newcomer strode over, heels clicking. "I didn't expect to see you here. Everything all right? You look well, as put together as always." Rebecca set her phone down and forced a polite smile. "Helen, what a coincidence. I'm fine. Just a routine check." Helen, clearly not buying it, tilted her head, her smile sharpening. "Routine in oncology must be stressful. Handling all that on your own, no family to lean on. I mean, a CEO like you, always so independent. But the board might worry, with the merger coming up. They want stability, someone with a solid personal foundation, not someone facing uncertainties alone." I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but the tension was thick enough to cut through the stale air. Rebecca's hand clenched in her lap, and for a split second I saw the crack in her armor, the raw panic behind those controlled eyes. She was being cornered right there in a waiting room full of strangers. Helen was twisting the knife, implying that whatever had brought Rebecca here could cost her everything professionally if word got out. No family, no support system. That was the jab. Before I could look away, Rebecca's gaze flicked to me, desperate and pleading. In one fluid motion, she shifted into the seat right beside mine, her hand slipping into my palm as if it belonged there. Her fingers were cold, trembling slightly. "Actually, Helen," she said, her voice steady despite everything, "my husband is right here with me." Husband? My heart hammered. Me. But then I saw it. The sheer vulnerability in her eyes, the silent plea for help. She wasn't asking for much, just a lifeline. In that moment, something in me clicked. I'd been alone too long to watch someone else drown in the same isolation. Without thinking it through, I squeezed her hand gently and slipped my arm around her waist, pulling her close enough to sell it. "Yeah," I said, keeping my tone even and protective, as if we'd done this 100 times. "We're handling this together. No need to worry about us." Helen's eyes narrowed, darting between us, suspicion flickering, but with no immediate proof to challenge, she straightened up. "Oh well, that's good to hear. Take care, Rebecca, and nice to meet you, Mr. Harrington." She extended a hand, testing. "Mitchell," I corrected smoothly, shaking it with a firm grip. "Ryan Mitchell. We've been keeping things low-key." She nodded, her smile tight, and finally backed off, muttering something about a meeting before disappearing down the corridor. The door clicked shut and the room fell quiet again. Rebecca exhaled slowly, her shoulders slumping as she withdrew her hand. "Thank you," she whispered, barely audible. "You didn't have to do that." I shrugged, rubbing the back of my neck. "Seemed like you needed backup. Who was that?" "A colleague, rival, really. She's on the board at my company. If they think I'm unstable, it'll cost me everything." She glanced at me, gratitude mixed with embarrassment. "I'm Rebecca Harrington." "Ryan," I replied. We sat there in awkward silence, two strangers bound by a lie born of desperation. The weight of our own fears still hung heavy, but for the first time that day, I didn't feel quite so alone. Little did I know that impulsive act had just pulled us into something far bigger. As I walked into the exam room, my stomach twisted. The doctor was an older man with a kind face, but his words landed like a punch anyway. "Mr. Mitchell, the biopsy results are inconclusive. There's a mass, but we can't tell if it's malignant yet. We'll need more tests, blood work, another scan." He handed me a slip, and that was it. Inconclusive. Not the death sentence I'd feared, but not the all clear either. It felt like being trapped in limbo. The fear still gnawed as I nodded and left. Back in the waiting area, I scanned for Rebecca, half expecting her to have vanished, but there she was, emerging from another door, her face pale, lips pressed tight, clutching a similar slip. Our eyes met. "Same boat?" I asked quietly as we headed toward the exit. "Inconclusive," she replied, her voice steady but edged with exhaustion. "More tests soon." We stepped out into the bright London sunlight, the hospital doors whooshing shut behind us. The car park was a sea of vehicles gleaming under the sun. My battered old van sat at the far end beside a row of smarter cars. Rebecca's sleek Mercedes was closer. As we approached it, she glanced over her shoulder. "Damn it," she muttered. I followed her gaze and spotted Helen lingering near the entrance, pretending to check her phone but clearly watching. Rebecca turned to me, urgent. "She's still here, probably waiting to see if I'm really alone. Ryan, can you walk me to my car, just for show?" I hesitated, but the plea in her eyes was the same as before. "Sure," I said, falling into step beside her. We didn't hold hands this time, but I stayed close like a protective shadow. Helen's eyes tracked us the whole way. Once we reached the car, Rebecca unlocked it with a beep and leaned against the door, exhaling. "Thank you again. I don't even know why I'm dragging you into this." "It's fine," I said, shoving my hands into my pockets. "That woman seems like a real piece of work." Rebecca let out a bitter laugh. "You have no idea. Helen Doyle. She's on the board at Harrington Property Group. We're in the middle of a huge merger, and she's gunning for my spot as CEO. If she finds out I'm here alone, dealing with this," she waved her biopsy slip, "she'll spin it to the board as instability. No family, no support system. Too risky for leadership. I can't let that happen." I nodded, understanding more than I wanted to. So the husband act had bought her some time. "Exactly." She paused, studying me. Then, in a rush, "Ryan, I know this is mad, but would you keep it up just until we get our results? Pretend to be my husband if Helen or anyone else shows up. I'll make it worth your while. Cover any medical costs if your tests go the wrong way, whatever you need." I stepped back, shaking my head. "Whoa, hold on. I'm not some actor for hire. I don't even know you. And I sure as hell don't belong in your world. Suits, mergers, boardrooms. I'm just a bloke who fixes cars. This isn't my mess." Her shoulders sagged, but she didn't retreat. "I get it. But think about it. We're both waiting on these results alone. No one's coming for me if it's bad news. And from what I saw in there, same for you. That's all. No strings after that. If money's not your thing, fine. But if your biopsy comes back worrying, I have connections. Specialists, insurance. You helped me once. Let me help you." I stared at the ground, kicking at a loose stone. She wasn't wrong. If it was serious, I'd be facing it solo. bills piling up, no one to drive me anywhere. But it wasn't just that. It was the way she said alone, like she knew the weight of it. I'd felt it every day since my parents died. Why me? I asked finally. You could have picked anyone in that room. Because you didn't hesitate back there, she said softly. You saw I needed help and just did it. No questions. That's rare. I sighed. All right, until the results, but no money. And when it's over, it's over. Deal. Deal. She pulled out her phone and we exchanged numbers. If Helen shows up, I'll text you. We might need to meet up, make it look real. As I walked back to my van, the sun warm on my back, I wondered what on earth I'd just agreed to. Pretending to be married to a stranger, a CEO no less. It sounded ridiculous, but as I drove home through the traffic-clogged streets, a part of me felt less alone. For the first time in years, someone needed me, even if it was only pretend. Before long, she messaged me to meet at her office in the city. I drove into central London, feeling as though I'd stepped into another world. The streets were jammed with people in suits rushing between glass skyscrapers, coffee cups in hand, while I navigated my rattling van through the congestion. Harrington Property Group occupied one of those sleek towers with a marble lobby and security guards who eyed me like I was lost. She appeared in the lift lobby looking every inch the CEO, tailored grey pantsuit, pearl earrings, hair still in that perfect bun. "Ryan," she said with a quick nod, voice low. "Thanks for coming. Follow my lead." She led me through the open plan office, desks buzzing with calls, screens flashing property listings, the air smelling of fresh coffee and printer ink. Heads turned as we passed. I stuck out in my work boots among the polished professionals. We headed to a glass-walled conference room and she closed the door. "Helen might drop by unannounced," she explained. "She's been sniffing around. If she shows we're discussing joint insurance, makes it look solid." I pulled out the crumpled form. "This is all I've got. Old car insurance stuff." "Perfect," she said, scanning it. "We'll say we're updating policies together." We sat there for a while, the silence awkward at first. To fill it, she asked, "So, what do you do when you're not helping strangers in hospitals?" I leaned back, surprised she cared. "Fix cars. I've been at the garage a long time now. Oil changes, engine overhauls. I like it. Keeps my hands busy." I paused, then added more than I'd planned. "Grew up without much family. Parents gone young, no siblings. Figured life out on my own. Work's all I've really got. But sometimes I wonder if it's enough. Like, am I just going through the motions, scared of ending up alone with nothing to show for it?" Rebecca listened, her eyes softening as she sipped her coffee. It was the first time I'd seen her without that armored expression. "I get that," she said quietly. "Running a company like this is all-consuming. Deals, board meetings, endless pressure. But at the end of the day, it's just numbers. No one asks about you, the person. I've built this empire, but it's lonely at the top." For a moment, the CEO mask slipped and I saw the woman from the waiting room, vulnerable, human. Before I could respond, there was a knock. Helen poked her head in, smile too sharp. "Rebecca, just checking on that merger update. Oh, and hello again, Ryan." I played along, sliding the paper toward Rebecca. "Yeah, we're sorting some insurance stuff. Can't be too careful with everything going on." Rebecca nodded, her hand brushing mine as she took the form. A small touch, but it felt real in the moment. Helen lingered, then left with a curt nod. Once she was gone, Rebecca exhaled. "That was close. Thank you." Later, we met for lunch near the hospital at a greasy spoon cafe with vinyl booths and the smell of frying onions. She was already there, looking more casual in slacks and a blouse, but still out of place. We ordered sandwiches and, as we ate, Helen walked in. "Fancy running into you two again," she said, eyes darting between us. I didn't miss a beat. "Hey Helen, just grabbing a bite before Rebecca's next meeting." I reached across the table, taking her hand in mine, a gesture that started as pretend but lingered a second too long. Rebecca squeezed back, fingers warm this time. "Ryan's been my rock," she added smoothly. Helen grilled us lightly. How long we'd been married, how we'd met. I spun a quick story. Met when her car broke down near my garage, hit it off over coffee. It flowed naturally, and to sell it I leaned in and kissed her cheek lightly, feeling her skin flush. Helen bought it enough to leave with a skeptical, "Well, enjoy your lunch." After she was gone, we didn't pull apart right away. Instead, we walked to a nearby park, fallen leaves crunching under our feet. The air was crisp. We sat on a bench overlooking a small pond, and Rebecca turned to me, voice softer. "Do you ever think about it? The results? Are you scared of dying?" I stared at the water, the question hitting deep. Not dying exactly, more like living without meaning. I fixed 1,000 cars, but what if that's all? No one to remember me, no mark left behind. That's what scares me, fading away unnoticed. My words hung there heavier than I'd intended. She was quiet, then tears welled. I built everything to prove I could stand alone, but now, facing this, I realize how empty it is. No one sees me beyond the title. A tear slipped down her cheek, and without thinking, I reached out, wiping it away with my thumb. Her skin was soft, and she leaned into the touch for a second. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not treating me like a stranger." We sat there until the light changed, the pretense blurring into something real. I drove home that evening with her vulnerability replaying in my mind, wondering if this was still just a deal. Just before the appointment, we met for coffee at the same cafe. We ordered, and she broke the silence. These past days have been strange, but for the first time in years, I haven't felt completely alone. It's not just the acting, it's you listening, being there. I didn't expect that. I met her gaze, chest tightening. "Yeah, me neither." I wanted to say more, how talking to her made my own fears feel smaller, how her strength inspired me, but the words stuck. Instead, we finished our coffee and headed to the hospital together. In the waiting room, we sat side by side, her hand finding mine without pretense. No Helen this time, just us, holding on as names were called. For the first time, the silence between us wasn't awkward. It was comfortable, like we'd crossed some invisible line from strangers to something more. The nurse called my name first. I felt Rebecca's hand slip from mine as I stood. "Good luck," she whispered. I nodded, throat tight, and followed the nurse. The doctor wasted no time. "Mr. Mitchell, good news. The additional tests confirm it's benign. No cancer, just a cyst from inflammation. We'll monitor it, but you're in the clear for now." Relief hit like a wave. I could breathe again. Back in the waiting area, Rebecca was gone, probably in her own appointment. I paced, debating whether to wait. These days had blurred the lines. What started as a favor felt like more now. She emerged about 20 minutes later, face composed, but steps slower. "Ryan," she said, spotting me, "you waited." "Of course. How'd it go?" She forced a smile. Inconclusive still, but stable. More follow-ups. Her eyes didn't quite meet mine, and something in her tone felt off, but relief flooded me anyway. "Mine's benign," I said, grinning. "No cancer." Her expression softened genuinely, and she squeezed my arm. "That's wonderful, really." We walked out together, her hand finding mine again, as we crossed the car park. For a moment it felt natural, like we weren't pretending anymore. But as we reached her Mercedes, her phone buzzed. She answered. "Yes, it's through. The merger. The board approved. The family stability angle sealed it. Helen couldn't argue against that." She laughed, sharp and relieved. "Tell them I'll be in tomorrow to sign. Thanks." She hung up, face lit with victory. The deal went through. Harrington Property just merged with the biggest player in the Southeast. It's done. "Congratulations," I said, but the words tasted bitter. Family stability, that's what she'd called it. The fake marriage, me playing husband. It hit me then, listening to her on the call. That's all I was, a prop in her strategy. The board had bought the act, Helen had backed off, and now she had her empire intact. The days of talks, the vulnerability in the park, the hand-holding, it had all served the merger. Anger rose, hot and unexpected. I'd opened up to her, shared my fears, and for what? To be a tool in her corporate game. She must have seen it on my face because her smile faded. "Ryan, what's wrong?" I pulled my hand away. "Nothing, just thinking about the merger. Sounds like the husband ploy worked perfectly. Board bought it, hook, line, and sinker." Her brow furrowed. "What? It's not... Isn't it?" I cut in, voice colder than I intended. "That's why you needed me, right? To look stable, to keep your seat. The whole not feeling alone thing. That was just part of the script. Make it feel real so I wouldn't bail. No, she said sharply, eyes widening. That's not fair. Yes, the merger was the trigger, but these days they meant something. You meant something. I didn't plan— Save it, I interrupted. The relief from my results soured into something ugly. I get it. You got what you needed. Roll's over. I'm out. I turned toward my van. Ryan, wait, she called, voice cracking. Please, let me explain. It's not just about the deal. I needed someone. Really. I paused at the door but didn't look back. Yeah, well, congrats. You won. I climbed in, slammed the door, and drove off, engine roaring. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing there, arms crossed, watching me go. My chest ached, not from the cyst, but from the sting of feeling used. I'd let myself believe it was real, that the connection wasn't manufactured. Stupid. The days passed in a haze of grease and exhaust fumes. I threw myself back into the garage routine, head under bonnets, tools clanging, the familiar roar of engines drowning out my thoughts. My boss noticed I was quieter than usual, but didn't push. But the truth was, the relief from my benign results had faded fast, replaced by this hollow ache I couldn't shake. It wasn't the cancer scare anymore, it was her, Rebecca. I deleted her messages without reading them, blocked her number on impulse. But every quiet moment, driving home, lying in bed staring at the ceiling cracks, her face crept back in. The way she'd listened in the park, the warmth of her hand, the vulnerability she'd shown. Had it all been an act? A calculated play to seal her deal? The merger was done. She'd won. I was just the disposable prop. My flat felt smaller, emptier. I microwaved dinners alone, flicked through channels without seeing, and replayed that phone call in the car park. Family stability sealed it. Yeah, I'd sealed it for her. My pride stung, but underneath was something worse. Regret. Not for helping, but for walking away without hearing her out. What if I'd misread it? What if those days had meant as much to her as they had to me? Then the letter arrived. It came in a plain envelope, forwarded to the garage address I'd mentioned in passing. No return address, just my name in neat, elegant script. I almost tossed it, thinking it was junk, but something made me open it during my lunch break. Inside was a single sheet. Her handwriting was steady, but the ink smudged in places like tears had fallen. Ryan, I'm writing this before I go under the knife in case things don't go as planned. The results weren't inconclusive for me. It's cancer. Early stage, but real. I didn't tell you because I didn't want pity or for you to feel obligated, but mostly I didn't want to drag you deeper into my mess. You were right about one thing. At first I needed a husband to save my position. The merger was everything. Proof I could stand alone, unbreakable. Helen would have used any weakness to bury me, but those days became something else. You saw me. Not the CEO, not the facade, but the scared woman waiting for bad news. The one who'd built walls so high she forgot how to let anyone in. You listened without judgment, held my hand without asking for anything. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Human. If I don't make it, know that you gave me that. Real days in a life full of pretense. Thank you. Not for the act, but for being you. Rebecca. I read it twice, then folded it carefully, hands shaking. The garage blurred around me, the smell of oil and chatter of colleagues fading. She'd lied about her results not to manipulate, but to protect me. And the merger had been the trigger, but not the end. I'd stormed off because of my own insecurities, assuming the worst. She'd opened up, and I'd thrown it back in her face. Guilt hit hard, twisting with the fear she'd faced surgery alone. What if she hadn't made it? I grabbed my keys, told my boss I had an emergency, and drove straight to the hospital. At the front desk, I asked for her room. She's in recovery, family only, but she listed you. The room was dim, machines beeping softly, the air thick with antiseptic. Rebecca lay there, pale against the white sheets, an IV in her arm, her hair loose for the first time. Her eyes fluttered open as I pulled up a chair. "Ryan," she whispered, confusion mixing with surprise. "Yeah," I said, sitting close. "I got your letter." She closed her eyes briefly, a tear slipping down. You came. I was an idiot, I admitted, taking her hand gently. I thought it was all a game, that I was just useful, but I get it now. It wasn't. She squeezed my fingers weakly. It started that way, but you made it real. Her voice cracked. Are you still pretending? I shook my head. No, I'm not here to fake anything anymore. I'm here for you. In the time that followed, I stayed. The surgery had gone well. They'd removed the tumor, but chemotherapy loomed, a grueling schedule of infusions and side effects. I picked her up from appointments, drove her home to her sleek flat with views over the river, and sat with her through the nausea, bringing ginger tea or just holding a bucket when she needed it. She tried to push me away at first. You don't have to do this. But I stayed. Work at the garage piled up, but my boss understood, and slowly Rebecca let her walls down. She talked about her past, climbing the corporate ladder alone, no time for relationships, the isolation that came with power. I shared more too, my parents' accident, the fear of being forgotten. It wasn't romance, not yet, just two people leaning on each other. One afternoon, after a tough session, we sat in the park near the hospital, the same bench as before. Fallen leaves crunched underfoot as a cool breeze rustled through. She leaned her head on my shoulder, a bandana covering her thinning hair. We didn't talk about the cancer, or the merger, or the lie that started it all. We just sat there watching joggers pass and birds skim the pond. Her hand in mine felt right. Not a prop, but a choice. For the first time, neither of us felt alone. In the quiet aftermath of Ryan Mitchell and Rebecca Harrington's story, one lesson rises above everything else, wrapping itself around your heart like a warm scarf on a crisp London morning. No one is truly meant to face life's storms alone, and the deepest connections often begin in the unlikeliest places, when we're brave enough to let our guard down. Ryan, a simple mechanic with calloused hands and a quiet fear of fading unnoticed, chose kindness in that sterile hospital waiting room at St. Thomas's, stepping into a stranger's desperate plea without hesitation. What started as a white lie to shield Rebecca from her ruthless boardroom rival slowly melted into something real. Shared silences on a park bench, gentle hands wiping away tears, and the raw admission that behind every polished CEO title or grease-stained overalls lies a person aching to be seen. Rebecca's hidden battle with cancer and Ryan's stubborn pride taught us that fear and assumption can rob us of the very support we crave, while a single act of showing up can turn pretense into profound healing. It reminds us that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the quiet courage that lets two lonely souls lean on each other through biopsies, boardroom wars, and chemotherapy's cruel grip. Life's uncertainties hit hardest in silence, but when we choose presence over pride, we discover that real strength blooms in togetherness. If Ryan and Rebecca's journey stirred something deep inside you, tell me in the comments below. Have you ever pretended for a moment only to find something beautifully real? Drop your thoughts, share your own story of unexpected kindness, and let's remind each other we're never truly alone. And if these heartfelt tales of love, loss, and quiet redemption move you, please hit that subscribe button right now and ring the little bell so you never miss another one. Your support means more than you know. Thank you for being part of this journey with me.